right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sizes and sorts and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I am Juan Carlos Bagnell, I was going to say lovely host. That doesn't work. Your host for this week's show. As always, the SGG stands for Some Gadget Guy, which is me. The QA for question and answer. This is an interactive live news broadcast that we like to do at the beginning of the week. We've spent a little time digging through news stories. We can come back and we can check out what's going on in the world of tech. And I'm already seeing a lovely live stream audience here. I'm so excited that you all are joining me on this Monday morning. And I'm seeing Matt Tyler. I'm seeing Steve DeRoche. Steve DeRoche. This is JMX. I saw Wes Easton pop in on the Facebooks. I'm seeing some people on the Periscopes. We're on the Mixers. We're on the Twitch. So I think we're going to have a real fun show. Again, we want to spend a little time digging into some news stories and then also just not obsessively cover the exact same stories over and over and over again. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm weeding through my Google News, it's always like 15 examples of the same leak of the same phone, and that gets exhausting. There's more stuff to talk about, which is what we want to do on the show here. We've got a lineup of some tech news, tech politics, some gadget news, and then we're also going to be making it, if you have any specific questions about some of the phones I've been covering or some of the things that are coming up in the world of tech, I want to have a little extended time Q&A at the end of this podcast. So save those questions because we're going to get to them at the end of the show, provided I don't spend 2.5 hours just talking about the news links. David Batista Silva is on the Mixer. All right, we've got a lot to dig into. We've got a lot. From Matt Tyler, what do you mean? I have not seen a leak on the Note 10. Shifty eyes emoticon. Gary the Fireman. As long as the new phones feel really nice in the hand, if they feel the good in the hand and they can cover the basics. Again, if you've been following my podcasting, you would know that those are my two least favorite tech review tropes, you know, like, oh, it feels really good in the hand. Apparently, this phone is not made out of razor blades. I love it. I love it. I'm going to take a drink of water from the tastiest pickle-themed mug on the internet. My voice is a little shot. I had a really fun weekend. Lex and I were sort of daddy-daughter dating, like, all over. We did a fancy dinner at her favorite hamburger spot. We went to this really fancy carousel that she likes to ride, but there was lots of talking and lots of toddler engagement. Whew, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. So I want to jump into some housekeeping right quick. Some stories coming up that came up last week from somegadgetguy.com or the Some Gadget Guy YouTube channel or the Some Gadget Guy Patreon. I got a couple proud of me videos out finally. You know, the thing about being a solo producer is your timetable is very easily interrupted. And I've been teasing, you know, like some Galaxy S10 coverage. Well, it's finally done. So the biggie here, yeah, Saki, it sounded weird as soon as I said it out of my face. But, you know, daddy-daughter dating is totally not how I would have phrased that had I actually planned that statement out. It was more to preface my throat's already a little raw from shouting and running and playing and stuff. But yeah, not my best moment there. It's a live stream fail. So first up, speaking of capturing audio and getting a nice, rich, warm tone for your voice, this is one, I'm proud of me that I finally finished this review, but also pretty good evidence that I feel like the YouTube algorithms are still working significantly against me. Here, let me get this out right here. Gonna get into screen capture. I finished a review on the Comica CVM WS60. This is a $240 dual microphone wireless lavalier kit that works with cameras and works with your phone. I am super excited about this setup, but putting it out there, I mean, you can see it's only got like 700 views. I never expect these types of reviews to do huge on my channel. It's just not something that I think a lot of people are searching for. It's tough because you want to put the name of the product in there, but I doubt there are lots of consumers that are looking for Komika in their search strings. But I did sort of a loose sampling. I reached out to some of my friends that are subscribed on the YouTube channel, and almost none of them were even notified about this, even those that I know smashed that bell icon. So I'm going to put it out there, and I'm probably going to be sharing it kind of annoyingly, sort of obsessively, because this is a really cool development in the world of making things with your mobile gadgets. Cameras, if you have a proper mirrorless camera with a headphone jack, or your smartphone, if you have a smartphone with a headphone jack, these are phenomenal lavs. They're some of the least expensive wireless options that I've played with yet, and I did an entire week using them in Taipei for Computex. These were my main microphones, where we even used them for some of the Newegg videos. We went wireless with these microphones, super inexpensive, and they didn't miss a beat. There is a very specific wireless technology and a frequency that they're operating on, which is phenomenally better than most of the other inexpensive consumer options that I've played with for wireless audio. Supposedly, people like to buy super expensive phones. Like if you own $1,000 phone, you own a computer powerful enough for some pretty hardcore production work. This is the type of accessory that actually facilitates super high quality vlogging and video creation, or even you just want to spruce up your own family videos. This is a big deal. So, from Matt Tyler. But you're doing videos because you enjoy doing them. And even if it helps one person, you're happy. That's why you're a top creator, not in it for the clicks. All right. Okay. To be fair, yes, I very much enjoy the conversations that we build through these types of these videos and interactions. What I'm frustrated by is pretty good evidence that this type of content is getting increasingly harder to produce on YouTube, because YouTube is fronting hardcore an echo chamber popularity contest algorithm. So unless something was already sort of preordained to be search popular through whatever SEO and algorithms that Google tracks for the popularity of a topic, it's not even notifying people that have gone through all of the hoops to not only subscribe to the channel and say that they want to be notified with new videos. And I put it out there on that YouTube weird social networking thing that they've built into the back end of YouTube. And I clicked all the checkboxes to notify subscribers, and still no one saw this video. Again, I feel like there's something worth discussing there. But a pair of videos that did very well. No surprise, if I cover Samsung, those numbers shoot up even when I'm reviewing phones months after launch. So the other two videos that I finally finished and I finally put out there, let me get this queued up here. This is my JMX. I have notifications on for your videos, and I only see some. Again, I think YouTube is definitely filtering more than just whether or not you've turned on that bell icon. So these videos are doing way better. I finally finished my Galaxy S10e review. This is more of a personal editorial commentary on what I liked about the phone and what I didn't like about the phone, and why I am not keeping a Galaxy in my lineup of review devices. I am sending it back. But on top of that, one of the main reasons why I have some issues with Samsung's current strategy and their certain, especially their cost per claim, because they're making some big claims about their products and they're charging some of the highest prices for their phones, would be the camera. And so there is a public conclusion on the camera. You can go to my YouTube channel and you can see the conclusion. But if you want the full 28-minute video with all of the samples and the more granular analysis, you can go to patreon.com/somegadgetguy. All of the camera deep dives are there. You can see the full list on somegadgetguy.com. So if you go to somegadgetguy.com, on the right-hand side of the webpage, there's a pair of banners, a pair of banners for the camera reviews and for the audio reviews. And that's the last little bit of tease for the housekeeping is I will be finishing up the OnePlus 7 Pro audio review this week, which is kind of a difficult topic for me to discuss because, well, I'll spoil a major part of it here. The speakers are great. but they omitted the headphone jack dongle in the box. So I had a sort of a moral quandary as to how to cover this phone, because a lot of these things are sort of covered out of the box. And out of the box, you can't plug in headphones. From MPCRSC562 on Mixer, hashtag Samsung Night's gonna get you. Careful of what you say. That's definitely one of the running commentaries from this last weekend too. Maybe this is the last little bit of housekeeping before we jump into some news. Was putting out a review where I'm critical of a Samsung definitely draws the ire of all of the Samsung White Knights, the people that completely define their sense of lifestyle and personality by what multi-billion-dollar corporation they choose to give their money to. So I was super anxious about putting it out there, but day one, amazing conversations, especially with the people who disagreed with me, right? This is a personalized editorial as to why I'm sending the phone back, not a purchasing recommendation, which I don't believe in, because I don't believe any reviewer is truly objective. I believe all reviewers have a bias, and some are more honest with their preferences than others. So increasingly, I'm trying to be very upfront with how I use gadgets, why I use the things I use, and how that relates to other products, and what I think might be a good fit for other people who use their devices differently. You know, sort of in descending order of importance. So day one was awesome. I had a ton of critical but not negative comments, and I thought, hey, maybe all of the weeding that I did on my LG videos paid off. Maybe I'm gonna have some reasonable conversations here. And then day two, I don't know who found the video or started sharing it. It was just comment after comment of, you're a shill, you suck. And then I shared one on Twitter. I think I also posted it on the Patreon of just someone like, you know, like, oh, I actually don't want to say all the words there because I try and keep this podcast PG-13. So if I use an F-bomb, I want it to be for a good reason, not for celebrating a Samsung shill. So it took another day. I mean, all Sunday I was basically just deleting comments out of that video and muting people, which actually muting is really fun because I just have this lovely image of some Samsung troll just trying to like get me with angry hate speech, but then I'll never see it. But they can keep giving me hits on my videos, which is great. Let's see. From Aditya NL, maybe a setup guide for beginners, just like our glowing rectangles being a launch platform for newcomers. You could have a playlist for newcomers to mobile video production with your mics and that dope mixer you ran on your Mate 10. That was pretty cool. It might not be the biggest SEO hit, but if it's a playlist, one specific search result could lead to the viewer watching the entire playlist. Not a bad idea, because this week I'm also going to start producing a video on video editing on your phone. So I'm a big fan of Power Director. I've been using it a lot. It just got another update with some enhanced feature sets and better support for the Pixel 3a. Video editing on a $400 phone that shoots UHD video. Come on. That's really cool, and there's enough horsepower to do it well. It's not going to go as fast as a Galaxy, it's not going to render as fast as a OnePlus, but you can shoot UHD video, really high quality UHD video, and edit it with a phone that has a headphone jack so you can plug in better mics. Come on, this is insane. And that's another clear shot against reviewers that are out there saying, well, the Pixel 3a is great for covering the basics. You know, if you just want to answer phone calls, it's great for that. Because that's covering the basics. You can do amazing things on the Pixel 3. I'm really not super excited for the Pixel 4 as much as I have been blowing people's minds in my circle of family and friends with the Pixel 3a. It's just been a hilariously fun phone to show off. Because here in the United States, we are starved for good, cheap, lower mid-range options. From Kiwi Mad Dog 420, removing the headphone dongle from the box, courageous move by OnePlus. From Sean Diggs Tech, that's unfortunate that a fan base can be so aggressive that you're anxious about putting out a video. It's the Samsung. Ever since the Note 5, the Note 5 era was the first time I got a death threat from a Samsung White Knight. Because I was very critical about glass on glass, and I loved the Note 4, and I love the active phones, and I smashed. that the Note 5 was super fragile and it did not last long, because at that time I refused to put a case on any of my phones. I was going to be honest about what this phone was like as the manufacturer put it out, and it was the Note 5 that basically flipped that in one minor drop where it just liquidated the internals of the phone. And ever since that criticism, it's just been downhill from there. So as Samsung continues to walk away from the phones that I like to use, where I get really close on a phone like the S10e, that's become an increasing part of my personal commentary on why I use what I use. But Samsung fanboys do not like that. The thing that I've noticed is Apple fans are very dismissive. So if you say something critical of an iPhone and you aren't a part of the Apple club, then they're over it. They're just over the haters. If you go to an Apple subreddit or an Apple forum, you'll see the exact same complaints listed, and then, well, you're a part of the club. You're allowed to criticize the device. But if it comes from someone like me, then they're just over it, and they have to trip over themselves to tell me in an Apple critical video that they're over my Apple criticisms. And ditto OnePlus. If I say anything critical of a OnePlus, the OnePlus fanboys can get pretty toxic too. It's the Samsung fanboys that take everything over the top, and then we'll also brigade on other videos. So I made some videos about the LG, and before I made my loose comparison video, sort of taking shots at certain tech reviewers, jack of all trades types of comments on the G8, I already had Samsung White Knights in my G8 videos telling me I was wrong to like the G8. That's the main difference I've found between the various toxic communities and all these other sort of fans and all these other manufacturers is, you're always going to find fanboys. It's the Samsung fanboys. There are so many more of them. And then they go on other videos to talk trash about other manufacturers. So none of that. I spend a copious amount of time weeding that kind of garbage out on my other reviews. So, it's good times. Matt Tyler, Huawei, hold my beer. I feel bad, actually. There was a very vocal contingent of English-speaking Huawei fans that now have gone almost completely silent. Like, I kind of miss them. They were spiky and plucky. But with the recent issues, from facing Huawei as a legal, from the legal side of this issue, unfortunately, that's kind of dried up. I actually really liked, because there was something very Nokia Zeiss with the way that they would kind of pop in and be like, oh, well, actually, they were very actually kinds of fans. It was pretty funny. For Red Freaks 93, LG fans are the nicest. I think so. If you're a fan of LG, you just don't have a lot to brag about. From Aditya Anil, you could become a Google Pixel 3a review channel. No fanboys to be toxic. I see. That's the thing is I keep fronting the Pixel 3a in so many of these conversations that I'm having, because that to me is a power user phone built specifically for a mainstream audience. There's really nothing the phone doesn't do well. And when I show it to people, like, yeah, you could spend $300 on one of these sort of entry level, in the United States, unfortunately, that is entry level pricing now. Or if you can meet this tier, I think you'll be well rewarded. And I've even had people coming back. Like in my family, there's very little. So from my mom, she's on a OnePlus 6T. My dad is going to be flipping his Galaxy S8 to go back to a Pixel. He really liked his Pixel 2, and he lost that phone. His insurance sent him a Samsung. My sister and her husband are now on Pixel 3As. They were on Moto G4s. They ran Moto G4s for like 3.5 years, which is pretty impressive. And my brother is gonna dump his Honor 5X, and I think he's gonna go OnePlus. So again, some really fun. Like my family's just sort of a canary in the coal mine with no iPhones, no Galaxies. So it's pretty good. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. YouTube comment section is a million people making the same meme. Now, if only they would all cry out and then suddenly be silenced after making the same meme. David Batista Silva, I think the iPixels have enough chilling from standard big tech review sites. No need for yet another reviewer to join the club. I think you meant shilling, not chilling. Again, I am way more excited about the compromises you have to make on a Pixel at $400 than I am at $800, which is why I'm still very anxiously critical of what I see from the Pixel 4. The square camera, the design of the phone doesn't matter to me as much as what will it do, because I think Google has had an issue with hardware, which is one of the stories we're going to have in the second half of the block, where we talk about Google and some of their future hardware strategies. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a rough go for Google as they start pruning more projects, and they already have a reputation for dumping things that aren't instantly popular and successful. So, let's jump into some news, because I do have some tech politics that we need to cover. So I want to do that up front, because I know talking about politics, talking about tech, that can be a bit dicey sometimes. But this is always ongoing commentary, and I'm very sensitive to anything that comes out news-wise in regards to the FCC. I feel there are a number of issues with our regulatory agencies being sort of co-opted by the very companies that they're supposed to be regulating, and it would seem that that trend is continuing. So this is a story out of Ars Technica. Ajit tries to kill San Francisco's attempt to spur broadband competition. Again, this is coming from a conservative administration, and conservatives pretend to care about states' rights until they absolutely don't care about states' rights. So this is from John Brodkin. This was published on June 20th. And from the article, the Federal Communications Commission will vote next month on whether to preempt a San Francisco city ordinance that was designed to promote broadband competition in multi-unit buildings. San Francisco's Article 52, approved in December of 2016, lets internet service providers use the existing wiring inside multi-unit residential and commercial properties, even if the wiring is already used by another ISP that serves that building. San Francisco's Board of Supervisors and then Mayor Ed Lee approved it in order to spur competition in multi-unit buildings where occupants only have one option for internet service. And so the phrasing on this is very important too. San Francisco's ordinance is built around condo units and apartment units where the people who own that property own and installed the wiring. So this isn't even every condo unit or every apartment complex. It's very specifically targeted at installations that the building owner owns and maintenances. Because there are in California that you can have an agreement where an ISP paid for all of the cabling and routing and installation. This ordinance would not affect that. And that's a significant chunk, probably a larger chunk of the existing buildings in California. Because again, we have just old enough buildings and just an old enough electrical grid where a lot of that stuff was retrofitted, and to save cash, the building owners probably leased out that to the ISP that operates their infrastructure. So again, all we're trying to do, if the building owner paid for the installation and paid for the wiring and maintained it themselves, they would just like the ability to plug into more than one ISP. And Ajit Pai and the FCC are going to close that. They're going to say, no, you cannot have competition. If an ISP services a multi-unit building, a condo, an apartment, you can only have that one ISP. So remember, we gutted net neutrality under the auspices of trying to improve broadband infrastructure and improve broadband competition, even though net neutrality really has nothing to do with that. And now a direct action by the FCC is stopping a proposal, something that was approved by the San Francisco representatives to improve competition for the residents of San Francisco. And again, there's always that funny doublespeak. Here, let me see if I can find, there's a great quote here. Despite its primary goal of eliminating a rule that gives ISPs access to multi-unit buildings, Pai's proposal is titled Improving Competitive Broadband Access to Multi-Tenant Environments. And he's going to improve competitive broadband access by eliminating the ability to seek competition. Again, if you care about any type of fair management of this stuff, we need to start supporting initiatives that gut. There are 26 states that have laws against municipal broadband. I think there are still 20 states that have laws against competition. So other, other private corporations can't compete. And then we also still have that gentleman's agreement between the top ISPs to not compete, very mafia style in different markets. If we can't solve these problems, then we're going to be saddled with increasing costs and sort of a decaying infrastructure with few improvements to be seen on the horizon. So, the other Ajit story, which is always sort of fun to do a twofer, this is coming by way of Gizmodo, but again, a number of outlets covered this from last Wednesday. Ajit Pai still withholding facts about location data abuse from his own commissioners. This was written up by Del Cameron on Gizmodo. Democratic commissioners at the FCC are still in the dark when it comes to the agency's ongoing investigation into the unauthorized sale of Americans' geolocation data. At an oversight hearing last month, House lawmakers pressed Chairman Ajit Pai to respond to charges that his office had refused to provide the Democratic commissioners with access to requested documentation, including any letters of inquiry the FCC might have sent to companies under suspicion of illegally selling location data derived from consumers' cell phones. This was a story we covered a couple months back. It kind of blew up. Definitely found more immediate action in the EU, where lawmakers almost immediately started stomping on this as a notion. But again, there was a story that came out. I want to say it was broken by Motherboard. I could totally be wrong there. But your location data can very easily be trafficked. There was a private investigator who paid some third-party firm to just get a data dump on someone's phone. And there's almost no direct oversight. AT&T, I think T-Mobile was also caught up in it. I don't remember if Verizon or Sprint were. But it was something along the lines of, yeah, pay me $400 and I'll do a data dump on this tower and you'll get all the information that pertains to tracking one specific phone. And if you have the phone number, then you have the identifying information to follow someone directly for a couple $100. Again, like, who could possibly abuse a system like that? So we've been in investigation mode for a while, and this article is infuriating because it's the same sort of like grade school boy obstruction that I think has come to characterize Ajit Pai as the head of the FCC, where, oh, well, I mean, I'll give anyone the data they request. I just don't have any records of them requesting it. While House members, congressmen and congresswomen are to his face saying, we've requested this information. I am personally requesting this information of you in person. And don't forget that withholding this information or lying to Congress is illegal. Like, you can be held in contempt. And it's still not being passed. So again, I try not to make all of these things just straight up, oh, liberals versus conservatives. But when it comes to the future of our data security, data privacy, infrastructure, and who's taken the most money for the worst policy, we have a problem at the grassroots of letting mega corporations influence politics at the ground level, and then that kind of bubbles up to the federal level. And we still face some issues with the liberals in this regard because they've been very ineffective in fixing this policy and in cementing some of these ideas like net neutrality. But at least they're not actively campaigning to make everything worse for everybody, to make a couple mega corporations a little bit wealthier. So that to me becomes one of those talking points where we need to be harder on our elected officials. We need to be talking to them more. None of these stories are being covered by mainstream press because they're the geeky, nerdy things. So in our circle of family and friends, we need to be a bit more active in having these conversations, because this is totally an issue worth voting about. Is how do you access the internet? Has it been improving? Do you face prioritized or throttled metered connections? It's going to hold back the future of innovation with new streaming services and new programs. If you're in the middle of the country, you probably have terrible access, if maybe no access at all, especially broadband access. There was if you subscribe to Netflix, who is it? What is the name of that? I'm going to have to pull it up. Is it Minority Report? Or I can't remember. Hasan Minhaj, he was a correspondent on The Daily Show. I can't find... Patriot Act. Oh, geez. Minority Report. But Hassan Minhaj, Patriot Act, Volume 3, the last episode of that volume is Why Your Internet Sucks. And he does a pretty good job in 20 minutes of sort of summing up the incestuous deals between state politicians and ISPs to prevent you from getting fiber to home, to prevent you from getting faster cell phone data connections, and all of the lobbying that goes into making you pay more for the same speeds, even though we've given these corporations billions of dollars in tax breaks, in tax funding, in preferred zoning, and nothing ever really seems to get better. If you live in a major city, you probably benefit from reasonable speeds at extremely high prices. There's likely between 30 million and 100 million homes in the United States that have no access to true broadband. And we can't even get the numbers on that. We can't even find out who is not being served because of a bunch of shady mechanics that, again, people like Ajit Pai are very quick to support. So, if one house in a community has broadband, then everybody has it, right? And that's how a coverage map is built. So it's a really shady game, and it's a shell game of moving these pieces around. But it won't get better until we start squeezing a few of these folks out. Yes, Kiwi Mad Dog 420, Hassan Minhaj. Aw, from Podcast Stage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's your voice that makes you sound good. Podcast Stage and I had a lovely conversation before the podcast started about different mics for podcasting, and I'm a big fan of the SM57, which is right over my skull right now. But again, I think one of the reasons why my voice sounds good is because it's a great pairing, the SM57 and my voice. From Gary the Fireman, we need to steal Ajit Pai's giant coffee cup. Yeah, we do. From MPCRSC 562, it was Motherboard who broke that story. Thank you for confirming that. I was pretty sure I didn't have it in my show notes. And again, Kiwi Mad Dog 420, Pai and his ilk won't care because they can just pray for Trump pardons when ish hits the fan. Yeah, I don't know that Ajit Pai will be high on the list. I just feel like he'll probably get passed, but I think what he's doing is securing himself a beautifully high-paying job in the private sector. After he's out of the FCC, he'll just go back to working as counsel for Verizon or another company like that. So that's the game. Again, I just implore people, especially if you're more tech literate, to help people have these conversations because so many people are left out in the cold. There are at least 30 million Americans that we never hear from, who don't have access to higher quality education materials, who can't contact a doctor as more doctors start leaning on web infrastructure and video conferencing, who just simply lack access to entertainment. And even that is a big deal in a world where one of America's major exports is access to entertainment. All of the things that make our economy better, all of the things that would make a community more competitive, at least 30 million Americans, at least 30 million households lack it. They don't have any access to it, and many, many more lack good competition. So even if you're more conservative leaning, because I think it's pretty clear what side of the aisle I lean towards, we should care about infrastructure, we should care about business, we should care about competition. We all agree on these things from the tech side of this. We might agree for different reasons, and we might disagree on how policies should be implemented, but we all agree this is broken. 86% of Americans believe in some type of regulatory action is necessary for maintaining the health and security of our broadband infrastructure. If you care about your electrical grid, because if we ever face a major coordinated cyber attack, you could probably knock out the East Coast of the United States by taking down just a couple of transfer centers and likely throw the East Coast into darkness for weeks if you do it right. And that's all tied into our electrical grid and our data infrastructure. We should care about this stuff. And right now, our elected officials don't because there's not enough pressure on them to care about it. So that needs to change. All right, let's get this out of the way here. Okay, that was our United States tech and politics block. I don't usually pull up other countries because I'm not as well versed in the political leanings and the law. But there is a story out of the UK that I just thought was interesting. I don't know how this should be implemented. And I feel like it could possibly be just a little bit of an overstep in how governments might regulate a business. But there's that schadenfreude of anything that kind of tags an ISP or a cell phone carrier because of the way they do business with their customers. Like, it just makes me happy, even if it's maybe not necessarily good policy. So this is coming out of the Telegraph. Let me cue this up here. Overcharging loyal customers will be banned under new plans unveiled by the government. This is written up by Sam Meadows. Overcharging loyal customers could be banned under new plans being unveiled this morning by the government. The so-called loyalty penalty, where existing customers see their insurance premiums or mobile contracts increase in price or are charged more than new customers, costs consumers roughly £4.1 billion a year. The government's new regime will see the competition watchdog given the power to issue fines to firms which overcharge or mislead their customers. The proposals would include rules to prevent mobile phone providers from charging the same monthly rate after the cost of the handset has been paid off. That's dirty. See, that takes me back to the darkest days of the American mobile market with how we used to do 2-year contracts, where I was on a carrier and did a 2-year contract. My 2 years were up, and I got those notifications, hey, you're eligible for another phone upgrade. And you're like, you know what? I'm actually good with my phone for a while. But wait a minute, my bill is exactly the same, even though my contract is up, and supposedly the reason why my bill was more expensive was to subsidize the costs of the phone. Why doesn't my bill go down? After we kind of got rid of those 2-year contracts, I think United States carriers have been doing a slightly better job of honestly shifting that out. So, you lease your phone and you might sign up for like 30 months. Now we've got cell phone carriers that are going to put consumers on the hook for full retail price over 2.5 years. But at least once you hit that point and you've paid off your phone on a 0 interest loan, your bill drops. So if you were paying $40 a month to lease that phone, you save $40 a month on your bill. That is shocking that carriers and ISPs in the UK are getting away with continuing to charge long-term customers based on these types of leasing mechanics after they've paid off the lease. Heck yes, there needs to be some kind of punitive action. The only thing that bothers me about this, and I think especially some of my more libertarian-leaning friends might agree with me here, is those costs end up just getting rolled into the price of coverage and service. There needs to be some other punitive action that can affect the individuals who run that corporation who are signing off on those policies. And it can't just be the plausible deniability of, well, I had no idea that's what happened. I'm the CEO. I actually think more punitive legal penalties need to be assessed, like potentially the threat of jail time for corporations that engage in numerous infractions and don't quickly rectify those types of issues. And I think that actually puts more corrective action than just fines. Because I think fines just get added into the cost of doing business. Well, we fined them £1 million. And you're like, yeah, but they profited like $2.4 billion on this business practice. That's such a baby tax for the huge profits that they're going to fire up. So the tone of this, I'm totally on board. A regulatory agency needs to be given the power and the leash to be able to go after corporations that do terrible things like this. But I actually think at some point we need to start looking at affecting the individuals on a board and in the management tier with something scarier than just, oh, your company's going to get a fine, because they don't care about fines. There's too much money in this business for them to just get a fine. But this is a step in the right direction. I'd love to see something like that enacted here, especially for ISPs, where we have these data caps. It's never properly communicated to customers how their cap is affected, what uploads might affect their data cap, how their speeds are being managed. They can promise, oh, you get 200 megabits down, except that you never will. You'll only get it if you run a speed test for 30 seconds, but you won't get it if you're trying to stream. And if you stream, we're going to throttle you even more because net neutrality doesn't exist. Those types of things, like, we need to be able to go after that lying, because it's not even marketing at this point. A lot of these are just straight up lies. Oh, we've got an unlimited plan, except that it's not unlimited. It's unlimited until it's not. You have unlimited data until we decide to just turn it off. It's awesome. All right, that's enough with politics. So I do want to cover a little automotive tech story. I don't talk a lot about automotive tech, and when I do, it's usually like an EV. But a company is doing something that makes me ridiculously happy. They're removing something from a car that I think is one of the worst automobile evolutions of the 21st century. And I need to celebrate the fix that they're bringing to their cars while removing something that consumers think is cool. Before I do that, I got a couple comments here I do want to tap on for that last story. From MPCRSC5621 on Mixer, that would never happen here, and I'm assuming you mean in the United States, because I seriously doubt we have any of the political clout to make regulations like that work. Matt Tyler, because our companies do not care about the consumer, new customers basically get things for free when they sign up for 2 months. Later, it's high, and then it stays the same, and it never goes down. Which, again, if we had competition, real competition in these markets, then we would. And then from iShould00, for them, it's just the cost of doing business. And I completely agree. And look, Fat Produce has joined the live chat. All right, Fat Produce is Andrew Wallace. He's one of my buddies. I keep telling him he needs to get a new job. He loves his job, but they have a morning meeting on Mondays. That means he can't watch the first hour of my podcast. So Andrew, I mean, I hate to say it, bud, but you know, it's time to get a job you probably won't like as much so that you can watch the show. Okay. Yes, back to the story I was teasing before. Mazda. Mazda gets the Some Gadget guy 2 thumbs up of glory for removing touchscreens from their cars. This is so great. I love it so much. So this is from Bent Halverson. He wrote this up on Motor Authority, and I've totally mispronounced his first name. I'm absolutely sure. B-E-N-G-T Halverson. Tablet-like touchscreens have become the ubiquitous interface of choice, and they're seemingly everywhere in daily life, on everything from thermostats to coffee makers and refrigerators. But Mazda doesn't think they belong in cars, or at least anywhere near the driver's seat. It was not a decision that was hastily made, according to company officials. However, as they started studying the effects of touchscreen on driving and driving comfort, it soon became clear what their priorities should be with this completely new system that makes its debut in the 2019 Mazda 3. Let's see. This is a quote from Matthew Valbuena from Mazda North America. Doing our research, when a driver would reach towards a touchscreen interface in any vehicle, they would unintentionally apply torque to the steering wheel and the vehicle would drift out of its lane position. And of course, with a touchscreen, you have to be looking at the screen while you're touching. So for that reason, we were comfortable removing the touchscreen functionality. So there's still a dash heads-up unit, but on higher trim levels of the Mazda 3, which is not one of their top-tier luxury cars, but if you move up in that trim for one of their entry-level vehicles, they're going to start including windshield-mounted heads-up displays. I am so happy. Touchscreens in cars has been one of the worst adaptations. You have a featureless, smooth interface. No buttons, no knobs, nothing that you can tactile, remember, muscle memory, nada. You have to poke, and then usually it's an underpowered tablet experience. So sometimes it's responsive, and sometimes it misses the gesture, and sometimes it misses, and you're trying to do all of this while operating a motor vehicle. You've got 2 tons of vehicle flying down the street at like 50 miles an hour, and you're trying to like look and see where your touches have responded on a crap tablet. Get rid of it. It's one of the things, like, my mom is shopping an EV, and I think she's gonna go Hyundai. She was seriously looking at a Tesla until she took a Model 3, and she didn't even take it for a test drive. It was like at a mall, and she sat in it and like, but wait, I have to do everything on a tablet? I wouldn't use my iPad while I drive. And that was it. Done. Tesla out. There are few things more distractedly, terribly dangerous in a motor vehicle than the increased attention. You have to pull your eyes off the road, focus into the car, and then operate all of your tactile attention in manipulating something with no feedback, no tactile feedback. It's all visual feedback. It is the worst idea ever. And the automobile industry as a whole should be ashamed for how they have failed to evolve with modern day technology. They completely abdicated all of their responsibility to distracted driving, and they even haven't improved the interaction between driver and vehicle. We all just take it for granted that you have to take your eyes off the road just to see how fast you're going. We're familiar with this. Cars have been built this way for decades. That doesn't mean it's not terrible design. It is terrible design to have to remove your attention from the path you're traveling just to see how fast you're going. We can build a very simple heads-up display with simple information communicated in very, very easy to understand graphics or icons, and focus that lens out so it looks like that information is floating out in the road in front of you. Like Google Glass also, it's not that you're looking in and you're trying to focus a centimeter away from your eye. The lens focuses it out so it looks like you're reading this information at a distance, and we can do that, and that's what Mazda's doing. They purposely built their heads-up display to focus roughly 8 feet in front of where the driver is looking. 8 feet away from your windshield. That's where your eyes are really focused. That's awesome. This was a feature that I think it was showing up on some of the mid-range Hyundais, again, higher trim level. But before that, you'd have to shop like a high-end Cadillac with the top option package to get something like this. We need this in more consumer-focused vehicles, more fleet vehicles. I want this in rental cars so that when I land in a city I'm not very familiar with, I get basic information. It's easier for me to navigate where I'm going and how I'm going to get there and how fast I'm going. This is huge. I am so happy Mazda's making this move. I need to celebrate it. This puts Mazda on the list of cars we will consider for our next vehicle purchase. I'm super excited. Here, let's scroll back up here. From Fat Produce, touchscreens are genuinely dangerous when used in cars. Completely agree. Matt Tyler, seriously, why does my fridge need a screen at all? Never mind a touchscreen. FFS. From Tech Leathercraft, yes, that's awesome. I never understood touch screen dash, but cell phones are illegal. It made no sense. And this goes all the way back to when car modders were putting DVD players. Do you remember that? Way back in the day, you would put in a DVD screen, so it would like pop up, and then you could watch a movie in your car. And then laws had to be written specifically about that, but those laws started impacting things like turn-by-turn navigation and mounting your phone properly. So if your phone was mounted within view, the official California Motor Vehicle Ordinance, I believe, is phrased around screen visible to the driver. So it's up to the officer's discretion if that screen visible to the driver is distracting or not. So for a phone, they can pull you over and up. Your screen is you can interact with your screen. You're using your phone while operating a motor vehicle. That's distracted driving, and we can write you up for a ticket. But it's exceedingly rare that same discretion is used when the tablet is just built into the dash of the car. It's the same type of distracting, and in fact, it's usually more distracting because your dash is mounted lower in the car than where you would put your phone, which is usually closer to eye level. Gary the Fireman, HUD, baby, like the F-15 or the Apache helicopter or any other military grade. It's like, we've been utilizing these systems for human-machine interaction for a long time. It is so frustrating that the automobile industry has been reticent to start including them in vehicles. Like, they are complicit by not acting in the humongous number of automobile altercations and fatalities that happen on roadways. And again, they could have headed off distracted driving by incorporating better solutions for technology interaction, and they kind of washed their hands of it. So now a few automobile manufacturers are finally starting to come back to some reasonable tech evolution. Oh, someone said Tesla's Kiwi Mad Dog. Teslas rely on touchscreens because their knobs and buttons will fall off. Oh, Tesla. I mean, again, mad respect for Elon Musk moving the needle on electric and self-driving technologies, but it's been a lot less fun to cover Tesla of late. Like when a major news article on a Tesla is like, oh, we've updated Tesla and now you can play Cuphead on your tablet in your Tesla car. And you're like, that's so dumb. Oh, that's so dumb. So frustrating. And from Fat Produce, auto manufacturers thought it was just easier to switch to touchscreens rather than come up with better solutions. Well, and again, it's like that was the fad. That was the, the techie thing. We can put a touchscreen. How futuristic. And all right. I mean, fine. Not fine. It's terrible. And car manufacturers shouldn't do it. Okay. So that's the end of the news block. This is where we take a little break, just a short little bit of time where I say it's going to take just a little bit of time, and it usually ends up taking longer than I intend to. But this is my call to action. This is my shout out for people who interact with content creators and are looking for new voices in the tech space, wanting to find new reviewers and new commentators. A while back, I started a little community on Reddit, and it's growing person by person, subscription by subscription. It's reddit.com/r/glowing-rectangles. And it's a place where people can self-promote if they're a new channel coming up, they don't have a lot of subscribers, they're trying to get their monetization set up. Or it's also a place to share from content creators you feel deserve more attention. Maybe it's an older reviewer who's been at the game for a while but just isn't drawing the numbers that they should. Maybe it's someone who had to switch platforms because their platform got demonetized or devalued, or they're just creating a new show and they're trying to get some buzz for it. Our Glowing Rectangles is sort of my attempt at helping to create a little bit more SEO, a little more traffic, and a little more awareness. And it's something that's starting to build. We're starting to see more upvotes. We're starting to see more commentary. We're starting to see more people sharing. And it's a place to kind of help spread the word. So I hope folks will check it out, and I hope you will participate because increasingly in this current market, participation is key. You can watch every video that someone put out and even sit through some of their ads, but that does very little now to help them build and grow. And especially when we focus on YouTube as a major distribution platform, YouTube doesn't really rank that very high as any kind of engagement. Basically, a passive view does almost nothing to help them. So increasingly, if you like the work that someone does, you have to get out there and share it. You have to leave comments. You have to thumbs up those videos. You have to do everything that will get the attention of this software to help promote what that person is doing. And for yourself, you have to build a fan base. If you're making this content, you have to build a fan base that does more than just consume. It's just sort of consumption of your content does almost nothing to help you build a bigger audience. So, Our Glowing Rectangles, I just want to quickly run down. These are the top videos from last week. Let me get this queued up here, and I'll go back into screen share. Some jerk talking about his Galaxy S10e. I don't know if we need to spend any time on him. Kind of hate his face. Number one video of the last week on Our Glowing Rectangles, top 5 reasons to buy the Galaxy Note 9 in 2019 over the Galaxy Note 10. Especially, this is coming from Easy Computer Solutions. Easy, these videos are hilarious and fun, and he deserves at least 3 times the audience he's currently pulling in. And he also does a ton of, again, why I'd recommend his channel, not just this video, does a ton of like front-facing camera live streams. So again, really putting these products to the test. You follow a reviewer and they talk about a phone the week it comes out, and then they never talk about it again. While dudes like Easy over here, he's actually putting them through their paces, running live streams from those phones, and then coming back to them almost a year later. What reviewer should you really be trusting to share their opinion on a product? Or do you just keep watching someone who only talks about a phone the embargo week before the phone is actually available to be sold? Just saying. Back to our glowing rectangles. So he's got the top 5 reasons why you should buy the Galaxy Note 9. Next up, just a dude with a really cool beard, TK Bay, is toying with creating a new podcast format. So it's Spill It with TK Bay, where he's considering doing interviews and guest pieces. And I don't know, he's got some jerk on for his first live stream. I don't know, some dude who always wears a hat. Kind of hate his face. But again, TK Bay, he's from XDA Developers, running his own private channel. One of the most knowledgeable reviewers out there that you'll find, and one of the most consistent when it comes to things like rooting and ROMing and digging into the software settings and really getting the most out of your gadget purchase, and especially digging into some of those phones that we don't always get the most access to. So he took time to import a OnePlus 7 to talk about the lower end OnePlus 7 when here in the United States we only got the OnePlus 7 Pro. He's a personal friend of mine too, so it's just I have to give him that shout out. But you will find few people who produce consistently as well considered content as TK Bay. And then just a pair, I know I usually only say the top 3, but just a quick pair of videos here. My pal Trisha Hirschberger has her top 5 games of E3, so you should definitely check that out. I see Control in the thumbnail, so I'm hoping Control got a shout out because I am ridiculously pants on head excited for Control when that finally comes out. And then my boy Viper, one of the loudest and most exciting, he's the captain of Team Apple. His videos are a ton of fun to watch, but he is joining Flossie Carter in doing the Android push-up challenge for 2019. And the dude's already pretty cut, so it's not fair that he's doing even more push-ups. I really got to get my exercise routine in check because I'm getting lapped by some of these guys doing their fitnessy thing and tying it into their tech reviews. That's not fair. I'll hit the bike after this podcast is done, I promise. I used to be a dancer. I used to be real cut. So, those are the top 4 stories from Glowing Rectangles this week. Again, voices that don't hit mainstream popularity on YouTube. I think many channels like mine, where they're likely not properly notifying their subscribers because YouTube's algorithm has decided what's going to be popular and what hasn't been. And again, this is a community I hope will continue to grow for people to share content from new voices. This space gets real boring real fast when it's dominated by only a couple tech reviewers. And increasingly, I find that once someone hits that upper echelon, that's the word, echelon of YouTubery, that the quality of their commentary plummets. So it's the people who are a little hungrier to build a conversation and build a platform and build a new audience that I think are really putting their work in and really making their voices heard. So go check them out. Everyone that's being posted on our Glowing Rectangles will be interesting to some degree. There are tons of players that you probably weren't even aware of, and you can go and check that out. reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles. All right. Let's see. From Matt Tyler. Few creators I have seen deserve more attention like yourself, but get looked over for all the big tech channels. I'll sign up for that. From Steve Q3 Becker. We hate his face, but we love his voice. I've got a voice made for What is it? What's the joke? I've got a face for podcasting. From David Baptista Silva, I think once the Note 10 comes out, if it lacks basic features like a 3.5mm jack or micro SD card expansion, the Note 9 will become an even better purchase in 2019. Completely agree. Fat Produce, my aerobic exercise is sucking in my gut. I've been playing I chase a toddler, every day, so that's how I keep my cardio up, but I really do need to get back into some weights. From Kiwi Mad Dog and from Aditya Anil, hashtag some CrossFit bro. Oh, this one might be even better, from Tech Leathercraft. I was thinking some dancing guy. I could get back into that. I've actually been threatening my wife with taking some ballroom lessons. I never learned any ballroom dance. Well, I mean, a little. I can cha-cha, but I really want to get proper instruction on some waltzing and salsa, and she doesn't want to make that jump with me. She actually point blank said, and she used to be a ballet dancer. She point blank was like, well, no, but I mean, if you're better than me, you'll show me up. And I was trying to express to her, well, in couples dancing, if I show you up, I'm not doing my job, because it's my job to make you look good as the man in any type of ballroom or couples dancing. And she didn't seem to be persuaded by that argument. Okay. From iShould00, but can you cha-cha real smooth? I can cha-cha pretty smooth. All right. Trio of device stories, and then we'll also hold a little time for some Q&A if there are some extra questions out there. If you do want to talk about Note 10 or any of the other rumors that came out. I know we talked a little about Pixel 4 last week, but this one I wanted to bring up, not so much because of the actual story or the device that's in the story, but again, we're in the summer now. There is a tech doldrums that happens before we start getting into the back to school and the second half of the year gadget releases. Everything just blows up in September as manufacturers all try to outdo each other and dump new handsets into the market. And it's a terrible time of year for a reviewer. Stuff is coming at you from all sides. You're trying to wrap up longer term reviews. You're constantly under embargo, and you're just mad trying to cram as many devices into your stream as possible. And I'm not going to play this year. If a device comes my way, I'm going to review it, but I'm going to spend the same amount of time reviewing it. I'm not going to do this day zero, hands-on first impressions, full review nonsense anymore. I do not enjoy it, and I do not think it's valuable commentary. But in this summer, in these months, in the doldrums, now's where we just get that glut of rumor and leak after rumor and leak, and this leak got rumored, and this rumor was leaked, and it's terrible. There are so many other things that we could be talking about, and why I made the joke about not obsessing over every single Note 10 leak and rumor that's out right now is because my Google News feed, every single time I click on Google News, do not give me stories about the Note 10. Do not send me more stories about the Note 10. I keep getting more stories about the Note 10 because Google can't understand why I wouldn't want to see something that's popular for search. And it's miserable, and I hate it. So when this came up, it wasn't so much that I'm happy or sad. It's that we got early rumors for next year's Galaxies, and that's now a news story. Is this extreme new zero bezel curved Galaxy S11 that is going to come out in 2020 and now is rumored to not be coming out in 2020? That's a real news story tying up our gadget feeds right now. A phone which may or may not come out next year after the Note launches, which we haven't even gotten to the Note yet, and is already rumored to be canceled. That's not news. It's not. So I have to kind of tag, this is from MS Power User, but this got shared as some type of hot breaking news on a number of other outlets. Aggressive Samsung smartphone with 110% screen to body ratio reportedly canceled. We reported a few weeks ago that Samsung has been developing a smartphone with a 3D curved display that would allow the company to achieve an unprecedented 110% screen to body ratio. As illustrated by this graphic by Samsung leaker Ice Universe, this would be because the screen would not just have fully covered the front of the device, but also wrapped around the sides. Now, however, according to the same leaker, the revolutionary new device has been canceled. Tweet from Ice Universe. Samsung has canceled the project. Follow-up tweet from Ice Universe. Although the more aggressive project was canceled, I guarantee that the Galaxy Note 10 series is very beautiful, and a person familiar with the matter told me that it is better than the S10 series. What? That's not even a thing. Breaking news. Newer phone better than older phone. Back to you, Ted. This is off. So, first of all, if that was really Samsung's plan, I'm glad it's dead. I do not like curved screens that wrap into the edges of the device. It's way more fragile. You're far more prone to mistaps. If you have any type of game or app that has any kind of control out to the edges of the display, it is so much harder to operate. The edges on the curve never have the same touch responsivity as a totally flat screen or a touch in the middle of the display. Don't make a phone like this. You have to make fake bezels and touch rejection that never work as well as just having a dead space where you can hold the phone. I've been whining about this and shrinking bezel sizes, I think since 2014, maybe even 2013. This doesn't make the phone better. It makes it look fancier at the expense of practicality and usage. Stop it. That's not going to make the Galaxy S11 a better phone. It's just going to make it more expensive to manufacture, more expensive to maintenance, more fragile, so you'll break it sooner, so you'll have to buy another phone. Everything about this idea is bad. So I'm glad it's dead, if it ever was real, because we never had any kind of proper confirmation that this is the plan for Samsung moving forward. Make something truly revolutionary to the mobile sector. The notion of the glowing rectangle as it stands today has completely plateaued and is now, as far as I'm concerned, on the decline. But also, we know that there's a Note 10 coming up, and we're already pushing forward to rumors of what's coming out in 2020 because we need the clicks on the top SEO, and you want to have your early links out there for Galaxy S11 so that when people search for it, you show up in Google search. You don't get better or more diverse commentary. You don't get better news on this. You just get an echo chamber circle jerk as people have to trip over themselves to play the exact same game of breaking the exact same stories because that's what Google's going to prioritize. It's awful. It's happening with video games where you can't show mature content on YouTube, but there are things that are going to be popular, so sometimes they get a pass, and then you get this sort of echo chamber of what's acceptable to stream, and then games that really shouldn't be as popular as they are the only ones getting traffic because they're the only ones that are fulfilling the sort of view count that Google thinks that they can advertise on. That's not going to help tech. We need to do better than that. And actually, Andrew, that's exactly the point. Yeah, so Frat Produce, I find a lot of parallelisms in the journalism coverage and journalistic integrity issues as the gaming industry these days. Yup. From the Sentinel 909. If I see one more crappy 12-minute coming soon phone render analysis, I will go bonkers. But the fraction of a millimeter difference between where the speaker vent is as compared to the USB-C port means that we totally could have fit a headphone jack on this side, but I'm glad the headphone jack is dead because everyone should use the Bluetooth. From Kiwi Mad Dog. I love making ish up. That's great. MPCRSC 562, if the screen wrapped all the way around the phone, then its screen to body ratio would be 200%. See, I wouldn't mind front and back. If you're going to make the back of a phone out of glass, then you could give me a mini screen on the back of the phone that I could use for my selfie cameras and only have one set of cameras, not have a notch or a hole punch on the front display, give up on terrible selfie front-facing cameras, and you still wouldn't need to make it wraparound, right? It's just two separate displays. It'd still be cheaper to manufacture than a wraparound screen. David Baptista Silva. Ice Universe often just tweets random vague stuff. Then if it comes true, it's a leak. If it doesn't, it was canceled. And tech outlets now take that as gospel. Amazing. There was it was one of the horror YouTube channels that I follow. I can't remember which one. It might have been Scare Theater. They followed this Twitter account. Excuse me. That had made all of these shocking predictions that all came true. And how did they do it? Because you would look at the date, and the date would be like days or weeks before something would occur, and they would absolutely nail what it was. And they went back through like Internet Archive, and it was like, well, apparently this Twitter account just went live with all of the tweets public on this one day. So really what they were doing is they were just tweeting tons and tons and tons of predictions. And then before they went live, they just deleted everything that didn't happen on the day that it didn't happen. And then they published and they went live, and it was like, oh my gosh, this person predicted all of these things. It's Nostradamus. From Aditya Anil, playing Fortnite on the secret Galaxy S11 gone wrong NSFW. Get all of your BuzzFeedy, clickbaity words in the title, and Google will love you. And don't forget, you need the thumbnail of like, and then because you're making a goofy face, then your YouTube metrics are also going to go up. So I did my Galaxy S10 review, and I made a joke thumbnail in the review. Again, I like making fun of YouTubers that are kind of falling into these tropes. And I like pointing out tropes. I liked pointing out tropes when I was primarily a movie reviewer. But of course, in a video that's roughly, I want to say it's like 60-40. It's like 60% me talking to 40% gadget shots and B-roll. YouTube's algorithm only picked me making wacky faces for the thumbnails. So screw that. I think I am going to put a hard stop. I will no longer put my face on a thumbnail unless it's somehow relevant. Like if I'm reviewing a pair of headphones and I put the headphones on my skull, I can put my face in that. But if it's a phone, come on. Why are we doing that? That's such a dumb game. From Steve, watching a video of the Galaxy S11 on the iPhone XS2 gone sexual. From Matt Tyler, Vivo Nex Dual. The Vivo Nex, and then also there was that Nubia. And I've shared that story where I was actually at the Nubia booth. It was the Nubia X. And I was talking to their PR people. And well, you're in the United States, so we can't send you one to review because it's not for the United States. And you're like, cool, your phone's doomed. It's an amazing implementation of a feature that I would love to celebrate on my YouTube channel. And you're dumb. Okay, so from me complaining about one set of rumors and leaks and talking points, a follow-up story now on the Microsoft side of the equation, where this is not a real product until it's a real product. This is the summer doldrums. These are the news articles that are going to keep getting published when we could be spending time doing longer-term looks at the gadgets that are currently out, revisiting phones. I had a lovely conversation this morning with folks that were curious about some of the features on the LG G8 that weren't covered on week 1 reviews, and I was able to show them how things have been working, and the few updates that we've had have actually improved things on that phone. Those are the types of follow-ups that we could be leaning on more during the summer months rather than continuously publishing speculation piece after speculation piece. Microsoft. From WindowsCentral.com, written up by Zach Bowden, Microsoft's foldable Surface PC with Windows Core OS will run Android apps. From the article, a new report from Forbes. From Forbes. You know, tech journalism giant Forbes. Back to the article. A new report from Forbes is claiming that Microsoft's upcoming foldable Surface PC, which I revealed to be in the works late last year under the codename Centaurus, will be able to run Android apps. In addition, the report also provides a few specifications including screen size and possible CPU. According to Forbes, Microsoft's foldable Surface PC will sport two 9-inch displays with a 4:3 aspect ratio, along with a 10 nanometer Lakefield Intel processor. I can confirm that Centaurus is indeed an Intel device and does feature two separate displays, not a single foldable display, like found on the recently announced Lenovo foldable PC. Now, what's getting people a little worked up about this is the continued evidence we have to point towards Windows Core OS or Windows OS Core. I can never remember. Windows Core OS. Streamlining Microsoft's operating system and allowing it to run on lower powered chipsets or also on ARM. This is sort of tangential to Windows on ARM. This is something I'm actually very excited about because right now, in most high-end phones of the last 2, maybe 3 years, the processing power in those phones often rivals and sometimes exceeds what you can get in a nice mid-range laptop. When we really look at the practical application of good mobile software on this type of hardware versus x86, the Intel and AMD CPUs in a laptop, you can usually extract more focused performance out of ARM than you can out of Intel. For example, and I've mentioned this on podcasts before, if I'm going to render UHD video, I can render a very high quality 60 frame per second UHD video not only faster on my OnePlus 7, it is 8 times faster than rendering that same video on my MateBook 13, which is an 8th gen Intel with an NVIDIA MX150 GPU. The same video render, because of all of the extra software overhead on that MacBook Pro competitor, takes around 8.5 minutes, where my OnePlus 7 can get it done in about 50 seconds, if we look at the same clip of UHD video. So Microsoft is absolutely on point here in trying to move their operating system and their services over to supporting lower power hardware and ARM chipsets. So it looks like we're not going to get ARM for this version, for Centaurus. But what I think is kind of interesting is if Windows Core OS is, I think this is what, the third or fourth attempt that Microsoft has had in making an app-based version of Windows, right? It started out with Windows RT, and that flopped. Then there was like another Windows Streamlined edition, and that flopped. I think this would be the third major iteration where instead of it fully supporting all of the legacy software of Windows, they're wanting you to go through the Microsoft Store. They're wanting you to use more apps versus full x86 programs. I think it would be a bad move to just build in sort of some kind of support for Android apps. I don't think that's ever gone well on another platform. BlackBerry tried to support Android apps. Who else? There was like another, like where you could kind of port things over. And I know Windows Phone, they tried to do developer tools where you could easily translate an Android app over to work into the Windows Phone ecosystem. But again, those initiatives don't really work. I don't think I've ever seen an example of that working well. And what instead seems to move the needle more is getting developers properly on board. And I think Microsoft has some pretty good arguments for a collection of services like Office and OneDrive that really do bring value to the market and are being leveraged by Android manufacturers. Like Samsung has a pretty good partnership with Microsoft to push those types of services forward. So that to me would be more important than just running Android on Windows. But I don't know, you guys tell me, like if that would move the needle on you. You were thinking of some type of laptop or portable, some type of clamshell, larger screen device. Would you care to run Android apps on that? Or would you maybe instead shop a Chromebook that can also run Android apps and in a little bit more of a Google-focused ecosystem? I think that's a hard question to answer, especially because we're going to have to see what pricing looks like. On a Surface, I have to believe a dual screen Surface will be a very expensive product. I do not believe it's going to be like a Surface Go. Oh, from Abraham AM. The other iteration of Windows was Windows 10S. Thank you. I couldn't remember, and it's just the one letter. But yeah, we went from Windows 8 and Windows RT. That was a terrible idea. And actually, the Surface I have on the bookshelf behind me that shows up in some of my videos is a Surface 2 RT. And it sucks because the hardware is beautiful, but that thing never got proper support. David Batista Silva, Sailfish OS can run Android apps. I did not know that. Especially, it'd be nice with some of these Linux alternative operating systems. There was another initiative that was just put up on Reddit, a company that's looking to support crazy old legacy hardware with new operating system, new Linux kernels, and trying to breathe new life into hardware that should be able to run perfectly well. And instead, the sort of planned obsolescence is to try and get you to flip your phone. Doesn't always work, especially in markets that are a little bit more economically challenged. From Abraham AM. My dream is to have an interchangeable lens camera with an ARM chip, and it won't happen. Especially won't happen because I think the one company that was most likely to make that happen would have been Samsung. They had their Samsung Galaxy NX. I think that's what it was called, it's like the NX30 that has the busted filter. You can see that shadow right there. My NX30 is my webcam. They had a flavor of this camera that ran a very limited form of Android, and it was really messy and sloppy, and it didn't work very well. Now, I think it would run way better, but you do have issues with thermals. From MPCRSC 562 on Mixer, I wouldn't want a Windows PC to be able to run Android apps, but rather some sort of iOS-like integration where you can go from phone to PC without skipping a beat. And from David Baptista Silva on Mixer, if the choice is between a Windows portable with Android apps or a Chromebook, I would go with Windows. Privacy-wise, I still rather use Microsoft. That's an interesting play. And then from Fat Produce, I think the worst case scenario for this trade war is all the Chinese OEMs adopting the Huawei OS, and thus making things even more difficult and less secure for consumers. Again, I mean, like, I'm kind of torn though, because one of my biggest rallying cries is more competition. And speaking of more competition, let's talk about a company walking away from competing in a space. This was one of the major news stories getting into the end of last week. I joined TK Bay on his hopefully revived podcast talking about this. This is coming by way of Android Police. And it's Google gives up on making its own tablets, written up by Ryan Hager, and they do have confirmation of a sort from Google. This is from the article. According to a recently published report by Computer World, Google let's try that again. Google is officially done making tablets. This follows in the wake of last year's poorly received Chrome OS-powered Pixel Slate and subsequent rumors of downsizing the hardware division responsible. This will not affect the division responsible for the Pixel phones, and Google still apparently has plans for future laptop-style devices. And then I just wanted to point this out because of their confirmation here. We have secured our own confirmation from Google about this change. The following statement was provided by a Google spokesperson. Quote, Chrome OS has grown in popularity across a broad range of form factors and will continue to work with our ecosystem of partners on laptops and tablets. For Google's first-party hardware efforts, we'll be focusing on Chrome OS laptops and will continue to support the Pixel Slate. And then from Rick Osterloh, hey, it's true. Google's hardware team will be solely focused on building laptops moving forward, but make no mistake, Android and Chrome OS teams are 100% committed for the long run on working with our partners on tablets for all segments of the market, consumer, enterprise, and education. And from Abraham AM, another project dropped by Google. What's new? So TK and I talked about this on his podcast. I'll be repeating some of my thoughts here if you folks were already watching that. One, it's increasingly getting more difficult to take Google seriously with new initiatives. The lead time, the wait and see time is getting longer and longer and longer. Will I invest in this new product or new service from Google Let me wait it out and let me see what they do. The Pixel 3a earned me back a lot of credibility for Google being able to focus on a demographic, focus on a specific product, make that product very, very good, and then release it in a way that is compelling to consumers. The immediate reaction, the immediate response, very, very positive. I feel it's a misstep from Google to not lead the way on what Android and Chrome OS can do. I think we've seen good examples of this. Like, we wouldn't have the wealth of premium, beautiful, adult, grown-up designs in the Windows laptop space if Microsoft hadn't gotten in there with the Surface. The Surface products are no longer products that I covet. Surface Book looks cool. Surface Laptop looks cool. I still love the sort of blade design on the OG Surface Pro. But increasingly, because of Microsoft entering into that space directly, it spurred on competition from their manufacturing partners so that it's less Windows laptops are super cheap, crappy alternatives to Mac, and we're getting phenomenal options at a variety of price points that really do raise the bar on what you can get with the Windows laptop. Increasingly way more excited for the next generation of gaming laptops because they're not as Mountain Dew fueled. They're more sophisticated, they're cleaner, they're edgier, they're sharper. I love them. That to me is very exciting. We already see how Android and Google and Chrome have failed to really properly seat the popularity of their operating system in a tablet form factor. And I think it's because they've played too many games with consumers, where you got an initial surge of buzz on the first two generations of Nexus tablets. Like, I had both Nexus 7s, and they were phenomenal. And again, at a time where they were competing very aggressively on price against iPads, there was a lot of goodwill building for what you could do on an Android slate. But where we've seen Apple actually start to cannibalize some of their laptop market, because Apple is less excited about Mac OS products as they are about iOS products. Again, so much more of their money is made on iOS than Mac OS that it makes sense that they're going to start trying to push consumers over in that direction, to the point where they just took iOS and they named it iPad OS when you run the iOS on a larger screen. That drives me crazy because it's now software fragmentation under the Apple umbrella, specifically designed to make you buy even more products to sort of fulfill different flavors of functionality in between every product category. But I digress. I feel like Google missed an opportunity to really focus and refine what could make Android special in that space. But the thing that's good about that is I hope it will mean Google gets out of the way of some of the exciting work being done on our phones. Apple is making it more likely, or they're trying to pressure their loyal customers to buy more products to fulfill very specific usage needs. An iPad will be able to recognize external storage, but an iPhone won't. So again, it's clear divisions where you have to buy these separate products to get functionality that should be universal. If Google pulls off a decent desktop mode in Android Q, almost all of my desires for better slates, for better tablets, for Android and Chrome OS, Chromebook style solutions will immediately evaporate. I will be able to buy a $500 or $600 phone that has USB 3, probably super fast storage, and access to that storage. And I will be able to plug it into a laptop dock, a tablet dock, a desktop dock, and have a ready-to-go computing environment with access to almost all of the services that I would use on a normal PC. I write my scripts in Word. It's probably about 50-50 if I'm writing in Word for mobile or if I'm writing at my desktop or if I'm writing at my laptop. That's spread. It doesn't matter where I go. My Microsoft Word account follows me, and I can jump into any article or any script that I'm currently working on, and I can add to it, I can edit, I can refine it. I mean, I could be stuck in someone's car and I can pull it up on my phone and I can start tapping away at something. I can plug that phone into any screen and get a proper workspace to work on that. So in terms of selling an ecosystem, I feel like this is a significant misstep, but I'm actually kind of excited because I don't think Google's vision, or I don't think Google had any vision. I think their strategy for slates was very common. We're going to make a Chrome OS iPad. That's almost exactly what it felt like when we saw the Pixel Slate. Not some kind of exciting take on it. It was the iPad has sort of a keyboard screen cover, and the Surface, the Microsoft Surface, has kind of a keyboard screen cover, and so we need something like that too. That doesn't help improve an ecosystem. It just looks like you're copying the market leaders in that space. So get out of the way and let someone else figure out what could be exciting about this, while people like me get really excited because you're not trying to sell me tablets anymore. You're acknowledging my phone will be a better computer than most portable computers I could buy. When I would travel, I would have a phone and a laptop. That's roughly $3,000 worth of electronics right there in current market pricing. A premium phone, very expensive, and a decent gaming laptop, also very expensive. And now I can get roughly the same quality of work done on like a $700 mid-ranger and a $300 tablet dock. Heck yes, I'm excited about that. I can cut my travel equipment bill by 60%. From Pacoston, the $999 stand company doesn't tolerate such ways of thinking. Let's go through some of these comments here. I'm sorry, I know I saw a lot of stuff coming in, but I was on sort of a tear there. So, I ramble. It happens. Kiwi Mad Dog, I kind of miss my Nexus 7 2013. I do too. It was a great little tablet. From Pacoston, I begrudgingly returned to Wear OS. The Play Store crashes when Wear checks for updates. So I'm moving back and forth. I love the battery life on my Huawei GT. Where is it? It's right over here. My Huawei GT. I just wish it had some smarter features. Like, it drives me nuts that I'll get an alert or a notification and I can't reply. Why not? Come on. So right now I'm kind of moving back and forth. My Huawei watch, the Wear OS watch, is not running well on the most recent Wear OS build, but my TicWatch, the super cheap TicWatch, is actually running pretty well. It's doing a lot better than I thought it would with the new UI, where you swipe in different directions. So I'm back on that. Fat Produce, if Google is abandoning tablets, then what growth space does Chrome OS really have for the future? Andrew, that is a great question, because I set up another poll. If you're watching this on the Twitch, you can head over to twitch.tv/somegadgetguy, and there's a viewer poll there where if Google is getting out of the tablet space, we're not going to see any more first-party Google Chrome OS slates. What manufacturer would you like to see walk into that space and compete? And I've got a list of manufacturers there: Asus, Acer, Dell, HP, Lenovo. And just to put it out there, my vote, if we're talking about slate hardware, I think the most exciting manufacturer in that space still tends to be Lenovo. I love what Lenovo has done for PCs, flip and fold designs, yogas, detachables, ThinkPads. I really like their hardware. If I were going to go Chrome OS, personally, I would go Lenovo, but drop a vote. Drop a vote in the poll, and let's see who comes out on top for a viewer video poll showdown. Who should pick up the slack, and who should lead the next generation of Chrome OS design, since Google isn't going to do it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. From Aditya Anil, wait, doesn't the iPad use the same chipset as the iPhone? It's just a few lines of code, right, to enable external drive support on the iPhone. I mean, Ideally, yes, that is true. If you're still using an A11 or an A12 or whatever chipset is in an iPhone and in an iPad, there's very little that separates that. But again, you don't even really have good multitasking support on iPhones, like split screening apps. I find this troubling because even Samsung makes that more difficult. Like they hide that mode. So when you go to multitask and you have to tap on the app icon and then you get a menu list of things you can do while you're in the multitasking view, doesn't make it easier. That's terrible conveyance. It makes it harder for a consumer to not only know that that feature is there, but to use it efficiently. There's really nothing stopping like an iPhone XS Max from split screening two apps. Except they want you to buy an iPad. Why would you split screen apps when you can have an app on your phone and two apps on your iPad? 3 apps. All you have to do is buy 2 products. From Q3 Becker, from Steve, I like Lenovo's hardware, but not their software. Aha. From Matt Tyler, Samsung winning the poll at the moment, obviously. And Abraham AM, sadly, repairability is really bad with Surface products. This is absolutely true. And from Steve, from Q3 Becker, the MateBooks are great hardware-wise. I'm a sad gadget geek thinking about the loss. Yeah, that MateBook 13, when you compare it to a MacBook Pro 13, it's like $1,000 cheaper for the same specs, and it's surprisingly easy to like open up and fix for such a tiny, slim, portable laptop. It's really well considered. It's a little plasticky, so that case is creaky. But I was very impressed with the MateBook 13. Actually, right now, I think you can get them on a crazy deal because everyone's trying to get rid of their Huawei products. And since it's already out, Microsoft has committed to updating it, and almost all of your updates come from Microsoft, not from Huawei. I don't know. You could probably get one for under $1,000, which is good mobile hardware for under $1,000. Really good mobile hardware for under $1,000. From Fat Produce, how about Lenovo only promising 1 year of updates for the Moto Z4? Disappointing, but not surprising. And again, it's sort of the end of the line on a lot of things like Moto mods. Very, very disappointing. But again, for that hardware, I think I would have a hard time, even for a Motorola fan, unless they were super into Moto mods. I think I'd have a hard time recommending the Moto Z4 over a Pixel, the 3A XL. You know, if you wanted the larger battery. But I'm loving the form factor on the smaller Pixel 3A. So it's not fun. So we made it. We made it through all of my major stories, all of my top picks. If there are some extra questions, we can do a little Q&A while I wait to see if there are any additional questions or topics to discuss or some links, something like that. I do want to put it out there because I completely forgot to mention it in my housekeeping at the beginning of this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sizes and sorts and persuasions, this is episode 100 of the SGGQA podcast channel. It completely took me by surprise. I was not paying attention, and I probably should have had something cool planned, but we are now officially in triple-digit territory for a weekly podcast, and I could not be more excitedly surprised that we've made it this far. Episode 100 is a milestone that I should have planned better for. It's a lot of talking, especially because most of these are over 2 hours long. A lot of talking, but I would not be here if I weren't having fun conversations. This is not a platform for me to just blather on at you all, for you all to just sit and listen to me soapbox and whinge on. This to me is literally the definition of some kind of community celebration where we can exchange ideas, we can disagree, we can respectfully disagree, and then we can come back and still stay on the pulse for technology topics, tech and politics, and all of the gadgets that we love using. I mean, the reason why I think we get so cranky and we get so agitated and we get so up in arms about some of these things happening in the tech space is because we care, is because we love this stuff. And I definitely wouldn't be continuing these types of long form conversations if you all weren't game to have them. So that's my thank you, my 2 thumbs up, my shout outs of glory. It's not that I have viewers, I have participants. Participants are what matters. You know, people actively engaged, that matters. I don't care about viewers. I never hear from them. I don't care about listeners. They're irrelevant. They're not irrelevant, but you know what I mean. It's that, you know, you're just sitting there passively listening to me read live chat on this on this podcast is different than shooting me a tweet, leaving me a comment, or joining this live chat so we can actually converse in real time. So this 100th episode of the SDGQA podcast is as much an accomplishment for those of you watching as it is for me continuing to talk about this 100th episode of the podcast. From Steve, we're all just numbers. Abraham AM, SDGQA podcast. We care about it. All right, let me take another drink of water here. Oh no, don't put that out there, Aditya Anil. Irrelevant. It's time for iDubbbz to do an SGG content comp. JK, Juan, JK. I'm so afraid of being on some YouTube drama channel. Again, increasingly why I'm looking to diversify my video sharing and video production requirements. But folks, we got a little time. We got about 20 minutes here. I have to drink some more water. My voice is getting a bit fuzzy. What else do we want to talk about? Was there something else that I missed? I know a bunch of recommendations came in via Twitter. And then also, obviously, my personal social media has been kind of dominated by Samsung again, just because I finished up that Galaxy S10 review. So it's important for me to get some outside perspective on what else might be fun to talk about. But here, let me get another drink of water while we sort that out there. Get this back to here. Oh, Andrew, that's a great topic. So here, let's get this back to there. So Fat Produce, how about that new Harry Potter AR game? Hashtag better than Pokemon Go? ? Has anyone been playing Harry Potter? Has anyone been firing it up? What is it, the Wizards something? Wizards do stuff? Wizards of Waverly Palace? Wizards... Oh, excuse me. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I've got to make sure my speakers are down. Wizards Unite. That's the name of the game. So, this was also something I probably should have touched on in my housekeeping. So I threw it on my OnePlus 7 Pro, and I'm level 5, level 4, level 5, somewhere in there. I did not spend a lot of time on Ingress, and I did not spend really much time at all on Pokemon Go. Quick little bit of history here. So Pokemon Go, I was crazy excited for before it launched. And we had plans to do not only app coverage, more than just like a review. We wanted to make AR, specifically starting with Pokemon Go, but make AR gaming a little bit more of a priority over at Pocket Now. And then through a series of conversations, we sort of scrapped all that. And I feel like we missed an opportunity to really dig into that. We could have been covering more Daydream. That would have led to us covering more legit VR. Because now think about the VR market today and all of the things that would be way more exciting to talk about. We would have been ahead of the curve, so some of that would have been a bit dull, but we would have cemented a bit more of our reputation in talking about that stuff. And even into silly things like when Pokemon Go came out, I wanted to do a video on how the Moto Force, the Moto Z Force, was the Pokemon Go phone. Because it already had a large battery built in, and then you could slap a Moto mod on the back, and you could just Pokemon Go all day long. So we never really covered any of that. I feel like that to me is a regret from my time at Pocket Now, that I should have pushed harder for that kind of coverage. But I fired up this Harry Potter game, and I played for a good chunk over the weekend. I don't think it's for me. Here's the thing. I'm old and I'm boring. I really like going out and taking long walks and listening to a podcast. But that to me is kind of finding some zen and finding some flow where I can kind of zone out and I can listen to a podcast or listen to some music. And then maybe I'll stop or like, oh, that's a really cool flower. And I want to take a picture of that flower. And then I kind of get on with it. The thing that kind of bugs me about these real world AR adjacent games, I wish there were better handoffs to things like my smartwatch, where as I'm walking around, I come up on an inn and I don't have to have the phone out for as many of the interactions that you need to play the game. And I find myself like increasingly being distracted from my walk or distracted away from my podcast or from my music to look down at the phone and look at the map and here's a bucket of water and here's some material that I need for a potion and here's a thing that I'm going to cast a spell on. And I'm going to hold and move the phone around because I do want to use the AR component because I think it looks really cool. And then I can start walking again, but oh, here's another thing I need. And that takes me out of being on the walk. And it's so stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. I don't really find I'm having fun. It becomes like another resource management challenge, which I'm trying to get away from games that are all about, well, you need this potion and these petals, so you need to get this frog. And then when you find these imps, you're going to cast a spell and it's going to create a bubble. And when you get this magic elixir, then you can mix it with this. And then you stir it with your wizard energy so that you can cast this other spell. And then you can use that. And like, I mean, like, I already have a hard enough time just keeping track of what's in my pantry and what's in my fridge. So again, this is really well executed, and I didn't run into nearly as many teething pains as the few times as I used to pick up Ingress back in the day. Obviously, we have radically improved this infrastructure for real-world mobile and AR gaming. It is so much cleaner. But even when you do run into a weird little hitch, I tried to do like a split time thing. Like, I'm going to go out on just a 3-mile walk. I just want to walk for 3 miles. So I didn't want to hold my phone the whole time, so I'd occasionally turn the screen off. I wish the phone were doing a better job of maintaining some activity. Like if there was a setting in the app, and maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, that would better keep your location data. Because then I'd say, okay, you know, I've gone a couple blocks. Let me fire up the app and let me see what's around me here. And maybe I can interact with something here. And I fire it up, and then it has to track my location from where I turned the screen off. It zips me across the map. I get the warning that I shouldn't use the app while driving. I click OK, but I'm not driving. It then gets me back into the game. And that's even a longer distraction from my walk. It's a longer distraction managing the game to get back into the game so I can play the game and then get on with my walk. And I know they have to do that. I know it's a safety feature. People are dumb enough to use these things while driving. But it's those little things that kind of take me out of what could be really magical about this. And also, like, I'm out here to chill. I'm out here to relax and get a little activity, get a little blood flowing, get a little movement. And that to me just kind of sucks out some of the fun. It's just kind of a bummer. Like, I want AR to be a bit more seamless than this. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, I'm still going to keep picking it up for a little while yet. My wife hasn't played it yet, and I think she might actually dig it. We like to go on long walks together, and when we're together, I think there will be more opportunity to like have a conversation, and it's okay if I kill my phone battery and she'll have her phone, and like, oh, hey, and here's an ogre, and we can fight this orc, and that I think will be more fun as a duo. But just me walking around my neighborhood by myself just felt really lonely and interrupty. So that's where I'm at with Wizards Unite. Oh, I got some long comments on this. From Steve. My girlfriend tried it. We're both playing a lot of Pokemon Go lately. She's a big Harry Potter fan, and she prefers Go. See, that's another thing, too, where if you've already been playing one of these games, I think you're already married to it, right? So let's say you're already playing Pokemon Go, and then Harry Potter shows up. Even if you're a bigger fan of Harry Potter than you are of Pokemon, you've got to start from scratch. And you've got to build all that stuff up where you already had that momentum on Pokemon Go. I think those things are going to increasingly kind of play in. Like, do you want to switch from Fortnite to Apex? You've already put in all of this time and all of this investment and probably a series of microtransactions on one platform. Do you want to start from scratch on another? From David Baptista Silva, Wizards Unite is fun, but it's basically the same as Pokemon Go except with Harry Potter characters, including when it comes to the AR stuff, which you mostly immediately turn off because it's worse to play with AR than with it turned on. From Steve, Harry Potter Wizards Unite to the poll. I probably should have made a poll on that too. Here, let me get this back. And Aditya Anil, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? He said calmly. And from Steve, Q3 Becker, I'm hoping Microsoft AR or whatever will be better at not interrupting the flow. God, we are so... I want AR so bad. Andrew and I are reading a book called History of the Future, and it's talking about the rise of Oculus and the beginnings of real consumer VR. And the entire time I'm reading this book and talking about people having these magical experiences in VR, and I really like VR. It just keeps like that little itch, like, where's a HoloLens? Where is some sort of mixed reality? Where is more real world interaction with data and services? And I want that so bad. I saw another question in here, and I think we can use that to kind of wrap things up. From Sean Diggs Tech, I really appreciate you responding and engaging the fans on Twitter. When I throw something out there regarding LG, I know a response is coming from you. And someone asking about bits. So there are things on Mixer and on Twitch where you get little points and bits and the ability to stream and contribute to streamers. I have not reached any of the streaming thresholds to enable that yet. This week, we're going to use that to wrap this up. We're going to wrap things up here. So this week, I've got more headphone reviews coming out. The Creative Outlier Air over here. So Creative's true wireless earbuds. I'm going to be playing with these guys. So there's going to be a video out on these. I've got some Pixel coverage, including the full camera review for the Pixel 3a, which is a really fun video I'm putting together right now. It's a lot more fun than the video I put together for the Galaxy S10e. And then I'm going to be wrapping up. I don't know if they'll be ready this week, but I'm going to be wrapping up the review on these hearing assistants. This is the I just dropped it on my keyboard. This is the new Hera IQ Buds, and they're for folks who are like me. Like, you probably don't need a full-on hearing aid, but a little hearing assistance might not be such a bad kit, and they look like any normal truly wireless earbuds. So very, very interesting product to spend some time with. A bunch of those videos coming out. I'm also going to be doing a revisit of the Nokia 9 soon, as that's been woefully neglected by reviewers and by Nokia. But one of the things that's going to help push this Twitch experiment forward is I probably do need to get more serious about streaming on Twitch and finishing up all those little criteria for sort of Twitch partnership and Twitch affiliate. So I'm thinking this week I'm going to try and do a series of little one-off Q&A live streams on Twitch, probably around lunchtime. I'm taking a break from editing a video. I might try and shove some food in my face, and then we can stream for a little bit, have a little Q&A session, get back on with our day. And that should fulfill some of the remaining requirements so that some of these other sort of content creator support mechanisms can be enacted on Twitch. So things like bits and bops and gems and charges, and I forget what it is on Mixer. I can start playing with some of those other things. Then also, unfortunately, it's also going to be about building affiliate links into things that you can click on. I'm already an Amazon affiliate, so it kind of makes sense that I should enable that on Twitch. And then everything should be
finished in migrating from YouTube to Twitch. Really, this is only the third broadcast that we've done with Twitch as the major streaming platform. So there's still a few things I need to figure out. Like, I was proud of me on broadcast number 2 that I figured out how to set up a poll. Moving ecosystems is hard. So I appreciate your patience all in making that happen. And then from Steve, oh yeah, some mukbang guy. TK was just telling me about mukbang, and it sounds like something I would never want to listen to, but it sounds like something I desperately want to produce. And then let's see. Oh, and from MPCRSC 562, yes, that would be lunchtime Pacific time. It would be my lunchtime that we'd be doing some other streams. But I'm thinking, like, if I do maybe like just an hour chat tomorrow, and then maybe like Thursday, we could also do like another little live stream, and then maybe do a Friday wrap up. Because next week we're also going to be doing another Patreon State of the Patreon live stream, so that'll just be for patrons. I think a few more of these could have some fun, and maybe even do one at night where I can fire up some gameplay. Excuse me. I can't stop playing Neon Chrome on Android. Twin stick shooter, procedurally generated maps. You take control of another human through cybernetic implants, and you run them through these maps, and you try and knock out this cyborg overseer. It cooks your phone battery, but we from the Razer Phone 2 to now, we finally have phones that play this game super fluid, like console quality fluid, and it's just so addictive as you get your little upgrades. And oh no, I want a new implant. I want this plasma rifle, not this burst gun. It's so great. So you throw that up against some of the other games that I've been playing too, like Bright Ridge and Thumper and so many of these high quality Android games. Like, I think I need to start doing a series, and it seems like Twitch would be the right place to do that. But to start doing a series of stop playing crappy Android games, play good Android games, and then celebrating stuff that I think is really cool. So, folks, that's going to do it. Episode 100 in the can. SGGQA podcast. Couldn't have done it without you. I'm silly excited to be continuing this as a series and expanding it, talking about additional content. Again, when we have good plans for fun new projects and fun new content, that makes me really happy, especially in light of how boring the summer can be. We've got some fun stuff coming up, so I can't thank you all enough for continuing to tune in, for engaging in this live chat, and for continuing these discussions offline, or I guess online, but off of the live stream. That sounded more graceful in my brain. So, folks, you know where you can catch me around the rest of the internet at Some Gadget Guy on the Twitters and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, of course, here on the Twitch, on the YouTubes. I'm basically anywhere that polite society will let me broadcast. So I hope to catch you all there as well. And I think now's the right time for me to say have a good week. I want you to have a phenomenal week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I love you all. Take care.